The Silk Road, A Journey Through Time Part 3, Treasures and Transformations. Among the most transformative goods to travel the Silk Road was something far humbler than silk or spices, a simple plant that would change the course of human civilization. Papermaking may have revolutionized knowledge, but the westward journey of gunpowder would revolutionize warfare and power itself. Chinese alchemists, searching for an elixir of immortality during the Tang Dynasty, instead discovered this explosive mixture of saltpeter, sulfur, and charcoal sometime around the 9th century. By the 13th century, knowledge of gunpowder had traveled along the Silk Road to the Islamic world, and from there to Europe by the mid-14th century. What began as a curious accidental discovery in a Taoist laboratory would ultimately render medieval castle walls obsolete and shift the balance of military power across the globe. The merchants who braved these routes developed sophisticated financial instruments that would seem remarkably modern to us today. Chinese merchants of the Tang Dynasty pioneered the use of flying money, early forms of promissory notes and letters of credit that allowed traders to conduct large transactions without transporting heavy coins across dangerous terrain. A merchant could deposit money in one city and receive a paper certificate, then cash it in at a distant location. This innovation not only made travel safer, but enabled commerce on a scale previously impossible. These financial instruments gradually spread westward, influencing the development of banking systems in the Islamic world and eventually in medieval Europe. The very foundations of modern international finance were being laid along these dusty caravan routes. Glass, that magical substance that could be shaped while molten and cooled into transparency, flowed eastward from the workshops of Rome and later Byzantium. The Chinese were fascinated by this Western material, which they called liquid jade. Roman glass-blowing techniques, developed in the 1st century BCE, created vessels of stunning beauty and utility. When these reached China, they were treasured as exotic luxuries, often more valued than precious metals. Chinese artisans studied these imports intensely, and by the Tang Dynasty had developed their own glassmaking traditions, blending Roman techniques with Chinese aesthetics. Archaeological excavations of Tang tombs have revealed exquisite glass vessels that show this fusion of East and West. Some pieces so beautiful they challenge our assumptions about ancient craftsmanship. The Silk Road also carried music across continents. The pipa, that distinctive pear-shaped lute so integral to Chinese classical music, actually originated in Persia as the barbat. It traveled eastward along the trade routes during the Han Dynasty, arriving in China around the 2nd century CE. Chinese musicians transformed the instrument, modify its structure, and developing new playing techniques that create the unique sound we associate with Chinese music today. Similarly, Persian and Central Asian musical modes and rhythms influenced Chinese court music, while Chinese bells and percussion instruments found their way into Central Asian orchestras. In the cosmopolitan cities along the routes, you could hear a remarkable fusion. Persian melodies played on Chinese instruments, Central Asian drums keeping rhythm for Chinese dancers, creating soundscapes that belonged to no single culture but to the Silk Road itself. The 13th century brought the Mongols, and with them, paradoxically, the Silk Road's greatest flourishing. Genghis Khan and his successors conquered the largest contiguous land empire in human history, stretching from Korea to Hungary. This Pax Mongolica, the Mongol peace, brought unprecedented security to the trade routes. The Mongols understood that their empire's wealth depended on trade, and they established a sophisticated system of protection and communication. The Yam system, a network of postal stations spaced about 25 miles apart, enabled messages and travelers to cross the empire with remarkable speed. A merchant traveling under Mongol protection carried a pesa, a metal tablet that served as a passport and guarantee of safe conduct. Marco Polo's famous journey from Venice to China, which began in 1271, would have been nearly impossible without this Mongol security infrastructure. Marco Polo's travels, recorded in his book of the Marvels of the World, brought detailed knowledge of the East to medieval Europe for the first time. Polo spent 17 years in China, serving in the court of Kublai Khan. His descriptions of paper money, coal for heating, and the vast wealth of Chinese cities seemed so fantastical that many Europeans dismissed his account as fiction. Yet Polo's book sparked imaginations and commercial ambitions. Christopher Columbus carried a copy on his voyage to the Americas, hoping to reach the wealthy lands Polo had described. The book helped inspire the age of exploration, even as the Silk Road began its long decline. The biological exchanges along the Silk Road extended far beyond disease. Agricultural products transformed cuisines and economies across continents. Grapes, originally from the Caucasus region, traveled eastward and became central to Chinese culture. Conversely, peaches and apricots, native to China, traveled westward, finding new homes in Persia and the Mediterranean. The Persian word for peach literally meant from China. Citrus fruits from Southeast Asia, including oranges and lemons, made their way westward. These agricultural exchanges were so thorough that we often forget the foreign origins of foods we consider native to particular cuisines. Among the most valuable items moving westward were precious stones that spoke of wealth and power. Lapis lazuli, that deep blue stone prized by ancient civilizations, came primarily from mines in modern-day Afghanistan. Ground into ultramarine pigment, it colored the robes of the Virgin Mary in medieval European paintings and adorned Egyptian pharaoh death masks millennia earlier. The same mine supplied ancient Mesopotamia and Renaissance European artists, a continuous thread of commerce spanning over 4,000 years. Jade from the Kunlun Mountains traveled westward, while Baltic amber made the long journey east. These stones carried not just monetary value, but cultural and spiritual significance. The routes themselves became mapped in the stars above as much as in the desert sands below. Merchants navigated by celestial bodies, and astronomical knowledge became a valuable commodity. Islamic astronomers made precise observations, creating star charts and astrolabes, sophisticated instruments that could determine latitude and tell time by the stars. These instruments and knowledge traveled both east and west along the Silk Road. Chinese astronomers incorporated Islamic calculations, while European scholars eventually gained access to this accumulated wisdom. The night sky that guided lonely caravans became a shared text, read and annotated by scholars across 3 continents.